You want to run this place, you
How do you know they're not your sick? Because I'm not a How do you know they're not?
The Bear is my comfort show, and yeah, it's a lot. This kind of realization sent me down a rabbit hole of questions. First off, why? Second, what's wrong with me? And third, why do I genuinely find it relaxing? Now don't get me wrong, The Bear is an intense TV show dealing with stress, trauma, and grief. But beyond all of that, beyond the fast-paced editing, the godly performances, or even Matheson's yelling, there's something oddly rewarding about the show that brings me joy. So after a ton of research, I found out why. Hi, I'm your host Rob, and you should probably tighten your aprons, clean up your stations, and sharpen your cutlery, because on this episode of Atomic Vision, today's special guest is Michael's cans of tomato sauce. Oh cool. I wish I had a can opener. Or hands. The Bear follows a world-renowned chef returning to his hometown of Chicago after learning his brother had passed away. Yeah, I can't actually say what happened to Michael because, YouTube will deep fry my so I think you can connect the dots. When Carmy realizes Michael left the restaurant in the worst shape possible, even Jeff Ramsey would give up after seeing this show. It's infected with mold, failed multiple health inspections, and is in financial ruin. I mean, Carmy nearly dies of a heart attack when he finds out Michael owes $300K to a loan shark, who's also his uncle.
Shut the fuck up.
Despite it seeming like a hellish landscape to revive a dying restaurant, Carmy takes this challenge head on and tries to convert this hellhole into a respected establishment. The only problem? The current staff couldn't give two shits what Carmy thinks, including his cousin not cousin, named, cousin.
You got no idea what you're doing here.
If you think this sounds like a stressful show, it gets even more intense when Carmy hires a new chef named Sydney. When she arrives, almost immediately, everyone in the restaurant feels threatened, thinking heads will roll under Chef Carmy's new rules. The Bear has a lot of storylines, and the way it weaves in and out of character development and hilarious one-off jokes is nothing short of miraculous. But all of this talk isn't really helping my case. Why is The Bear my comfort show, and how the hell is all this chaos relaxing? Well, thankfully, I can answer all of this with the same technique that cooking food is possible. Science.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Vice put out a great article a few years ago about this exact same phenomenon, but it delves deeper into other types of comfort TV that's even weirder than my love for The Bear. People love horror movies.
Art, I don't want to alarm you, but there may be a boogeyman or boogeymen in the house!
We all get inherently curious about fear, and it's why horror is one of the most successful genres in cinema. While there's nothing fun about genuine fear, our brains are complex enough to know the difference between life-threatening situations and entertainment.
Why do you want your brownie before you go to bed? Come on, let me cut you a brownie while they're still hot.
When it comes to watching a scary movie, that fear is only momentary because you're not actually in danger. If Ghostface kills a guy in a movie, that has no bearings on your existence on this planet because it's just a movie. It's why people love Halloween, and by extension, Halloween Horror Nights. This is an event where people literally scare you face to face and is one of the most popular theme park events of the year. In the Vice article, multiple doctors try to figure out why people find horror films comforting, and one theory gets pretty close. Our brains process fear instantaneously, and when you watch a horror movie, you genuinely become desensitized, especially if you're rewatching the same horror films over and over again. For phobia therapy, that's literally what doctors are doing to their patients. They expose their fear in small, harmless increments, and over time, the patient becomes desensitized and they no longer find it scary anymore. It's kind of like that scene in Get Out with the tea, except, it actually works. I mean, how often do you guys rewatch a scary movie? It's pretty rare to be just as scared the second or third time if you know what's coming. The anticipation of fear is scarier than fear itself. So movies like Stephen King's It lose their luster after a first watch. The second time, it's just some goofy-ass clown. But The Bear isn't exactly a horror movie. So what gives? Well, if you've seen the show, it's kind of a horror movie. While no one dies in the show, the amount of real-life stress put on the characters is as horrific as it gets. Sometimes horror doesn't have to deal with the supernatural, because one of the biggest fears of all time, the one that scares almost every person on Earth, is failure. The bear's entire reason for existing is so that Carmy, Sydney, Richie, and every chef in the restaurant can overcome their own fears head on. In that Vice article, Steph Hovey, a psychologist from the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, explains that maybe it's the confrontation of fear that takes away its power. Kinda like when the kids in It start bullying the dumb clown till he cries. While the bear deals with having to fix a crusty and dusty restaurant, it also dives deep into Carmy's insecurities and trust issues. We see how cold he's become thanks to generational trauma, how working nonstop has taken over his life, and how he doesn't find time for simple things like cooking for himself. Sydney, a culinary graduate, is trying to make a name for herself, and that's honestly a pretty relatable fear. With how crowded the social landscape has become, it's hard to stand out from the rest. So Sydney confronts this by thinking outside the box, creating recipes that are unique, and making mistakes along the way.
Gross. We need like a reset.
Cousin Richie's an entire treasure trove of monumental fears. He's a deadbeat, crass loser who disrespects everyone, including himself. Not to mention he carries the guilt of enabling Michael's addictions. Tina and Ibra fear being replaced. Marcus fears losing his mom to her illness, and Neil Fack fears being left out. But the reason that this show, with all its stress-inducing, one-take disaster piece episodes, makes me feel good, is seeing all these characters succeed. Carmy, after moving mountains to make the restaurant profitable, finds out that his brother Michael left all of his money inside the tomato cans, so he can keep the business afloat. Carmy ends up taking that money and uses it to renovate the beef into the bear. And during season 2, even with its own pileup of insanity, Carmy continues to succeed. The restaurant actually works. Well, except for the walk-in fridge handle. Sydney, who's been failing to come up with new recipes, creates a dish so damn tasty, it causes the restaurant to explode in popularity. And while the consequences of her actions lead to one of the most intense episodes of the show, the result is rewarding. Her cooking saved the beef from total collapse, and her collaboration with Carmy makes the bear a wild success. Even though Sydney is as flawed as any other person in this show, her determination overcomes any obstacle in her way. Cousin Richie, dude, he receives one of the best character arcs I've ever seen on TV because he's forced to discover what makes him happy. His episode, Forks, is my favorite episode of the show, as Richie finally humbles himself and puts others before his own selfish needs. Instead of holding on to what's been haunting him, Richie feels inspired by a world larger than his own, and now he wants to contribute that positive energy back into the business.
No, I wear suits now, T.
You wear them well, Papa.
Tina and Ibra realize that Sydney's only here to make them better chefs, not to replace them with new ones. And that existential crisis they experience slowly fades away. In the first few episodes, Tina is a genuine antagonist to Sydney, but by the end, they're loving BFFs. The Bear is my comfort show because no matter how hard it gets for Carmy and company, they persevere, fight on, and ultimately succeed in their endeavors. Sure, they stumble and fall, making mistakes along the way, but it's the fight to keep going that makes The Bear a comforting treat. Life is hard, making money is a challenge, and trying to find your place in this world is harrowing. But with dedication, support from those closest to you, and enough courage, what once seemed so terrifying is just a tiny bump in the road of life. Oh my god, The Bear's basically my Rocky movie.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
I cannot wait for Season 3 later this year, and with the show already renewed for Season 4, I trust series creator Christopher Storer to deliver a rewarding and heartbreaking goodbye to these characters I've truly grown to love. While it doesn't exactly scream positivity like Ted Lasso, its sentiments are pretty much the same. Love what you do, love those around you, and keep fighting even when it seems hopeless, because maybe your next great dish is just around the corner. And hopefully not a knife.
I got stabbed. Not right now. I got stabbed.
The Bear is unlike any other show currently, and it's been a beautiful ride seeing the series reaping in its real-life rewards. With multiple accolades for its stars and talent behind the screen, this truly is a story about overcoming your personal fears and letting the love in. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Atomic Vision, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. What's that sound?
I'm gonna find you a new home. That's gonna be my home. Your home's my home.